Hi, I'm Ewan.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is
Popcorn and Cumin, a transatlantic dive into film and media.
With a healthy side of unrelated nonsense.
Hello, welcome to Popcorn and Cumin. We literally just got back from the movie theater to watch what?
Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2.
Dun dun dun.
Dune.
Nice.
So we are very excited to talk to you all about it while it is fresh in our brains, while our heads are still aching with the explosive sounds of the IMAX.
Yeah, that was very loud.
It was. But before we really get into that, we are going to very quickly do our cross-border factoids.
Mm-hmm. Is that the name confirmed then, after I came up with it on the spot a couple of weeks ago?
That's until we come up with something better. That is the
Feel free
name.
to write in with a creative name for that and that segment, and we can work on that.
Do you have a cross-border factoid for the people? Oh, for our new listeners, cross-border factoids are: I, Sarah, am from California, America, America. Whereas Ewan...
United States of America.
Yes.
Gotta be specific. It's a big landmass.
It's true. Whereas Ewan is from...
Scotland,
UK.
Earth.
So every week, well, we try to every week name cultural difference between the US and the UK.
Mm-hmm. So this week we're kind of looking to get into the Dune discussion while it's still fresh in our heads. So
yes.
My difference is that in the UK, we drive on the left-hand side of the road.
Really?
Yeah. And unlike a lot of Europe, I think basically everywhere in Europe and the US, and really every country in the world that wasn't some sort of part of the British Empire at one point.
Yeah. What it's like
the Commonwealth.
Australia.
India.
Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think so.
They drive on the left, which is interesting because as an ignorant American before I traveled the world, I kind of thought that we were weird in driving on the right side because, we have like the metric system and all these weird things. So I thought we were the weird ones, but really you guys are the weird ones, and most people drive on the right.
Well, it's not like it's just like one country or one place.
Yeah, I guess.
I do think it's one of those, it's kind of like the whole like sign language thing where everyone should have just had a discussion and just been like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? We're either doing the left or the right, right? We just have to decide that, and then we can move forward.
Yeah.
Instead of just there being like discrepancies, you're just asking for trouble. Because now you can't change it because people is like ingratiated in people's minds. They're not going to be able to.
Yeah, but if you go to a new country, you have to learn how to drive on the other side of the road.
Yeah, but
so it's possible to learn.
Well, how would you?
But all the infrastructures,
how would you do it? Yeah,
set up.
And what you just be like, from tomorrow, everyone has to drive on the right hand side of the road. What if someone doesn't know that?
Yeah, true. The sign language thing, because you could say like, why don't we just have a universal language? No, and there's different dialects of language and
it's more. I mean, obviously, people will know this better than me, but the most obvious thing I think is American Sign Language and British Sign Language. I can't think of any reason why those should be different.
Right, because the official language of the country is English.
Yeah. And while there is differences between English or American English and British English to some extent, like you say like sidewalk versus pavement or whatever, I think in terms of ASL is it BSL?
Yeah. It's quite different.
Which I mean, I just don't understand. That just seems like people just didn't discuss that. Or maybe there's two people, it's kind of like an Aldi Lidl thing where it's, I want to make this supermarket, and then someone else was like, I want to make this supermarket.
Yeah.
Like, no, we can't do it together. We're going to make very similar supermarkets, but they're going to be different.
Yeah. And it's interesting because even the alphabet, obviously the written alphabet would be the same, but the signed alphabet is completely different in American Sign Language and British Sign Language.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. To be honest, I'm kind of a Luddite in terms of this. The outside looking in opinion on that is that someone has made a big mistake doing that. That shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
But we don't know how this language was developed. So I feel like, we're not experts on it.
I mean, like, shout out to whoever did that. That was a good job developing your own, like, language, or anyone who, like, helped doing that. But from, like, a practical point of view, I feel like there could have been a bit more cooperation there.
Yeah. All right.
Good
so
difference?
we changed to, we got two differences there. We got sign language and driving on the left side of the road.
Actually, just to close off on the driving on the left-hand side of the road, that means that the driver's side of a car is on the right as opposed to on the left, as it is in America. So therefore, like, the gears are on your other side and stuff.
So if you're driving stick in the UK, which most cars are, you have to use your left hand instead of your right hand to shift gears, which can be a bit complicated for the brain. Yeah. Not that I have tried it because I'm too scared to try it.
So a little postscript that we are just now recording, we looked it up, and apparently American Sign Language is based on French Sign Language, which, of course, basically that makes everything that I just said kind of redundant, because it is more obvious why there would be differences, because it's based on British Sign Language is presumably based on English, and American Sign Language is kind of adapted from French. So that makes sense, as those are different languages, why they would be different. I'm curious as to why it would be based on French and then adapted into English, as opposed to just using the British Sign Language system.
But I don't think it's necessarily based on French or based on English. I think they're like their own languages. Like, French Sign Language isn't necessarily based on...
Yeah, but maybe it was developed with the methodology or something. I don't know. But now you know they're different.
Yeah?
So if you know British Sign Language and you want to speak to someone who is maybe American and communicates using sign language, just maybe be careful, I suppose.
Be careful.
Well, you might say something that's offensive. I don't know.
Yeah. I think they're like... They have different grammatical structures and stuff too. Like, they're very different languages. But yeah.
Of course, you probably know that if you can speak sign language more so than me, who is a complete idiot. So what is your cross-border factoid, Sarah?
Mine is just that in the UK, people will ask you, they'll say, "You okay?" And in the US, you only ask that if someone appears to not be okay, where you're checking in to actually see, are you okay? Whereas in the UK, saying you okay is almost like a greeting. It's almost like, what's up?
Yeah, I'd actually say it's more commonly people will be like, they'll say all right, or are you all right, or whatever. And the expectation is just that you would say, like, yeah, are you all right?
See, I actually still don't really know how to answer it, because it's usually people who are like serving you or at a grocery store or something. Like, if you walk up to a counter or a bar or something, they'll say, "You all right?" And what are you supposed to say?
Well,
yeah.
It's like a sort of polite way of, I guess, showing respect or care for someone else, but the expectation is that you would just say yes and not go into
start talking about all my troubles,
unless it's someone you were like actually close with, in which case you could feel free to have a sort of breakdown at that point once they've asked that question as you're in. But I think it's just a general, like, it's probably something that started amongst people who were close to each other, and it's just spread outward from there.
Are you supposed to respond with, like, "Are you okay?" Or can you just say yes and then move on if you're being like served food, not served in court?
I'm not sure. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's a free country at the end of the day, but you might become a social pariah.
Well,
if you
exactly.
do that.
All right. Well, there's my difference.
From social pariah to social messiah, we are moving on to Dune Part 2.
Very good. So, because obviously Dune just came out, when we are recording this, it is March 2nd. I believe it came out yesterday or the day before.
March 1st. I have that confirmed.
March 1st. So we're going to start off with some spoiler-free things for those people who have not yet seen Dune. And then we will warn you before the spoilers are going to happen.
Yeah. There'll be a big klaxon, and then someone will go, "Spoiler alert!"
Yes, just like that. But before we even get to the spoiler-free content, we actually have now a deep personal connection to this movie. We know the whole cast and we're best friends with them, kind of.
We saw some of them.
Yes. So the Dune Part 2 premiere was in London, where Ewan and I live. And the premiere was in Trafalgar Square, and we didn't really know that it was happening. So we didn't attend the premiere. No. But
we were doing other cool stuff.
Yeah. We went to a James Bond themed cabaret, which was pretty awesome. And then afterwards, it had a kind of after-party dance club thing. So shockingly, Ewan and I were out on the town in London past midnight.
Living it up on top.
Yeah. And weren't we lucky that we were out past midnight? Because then we were taking the bus home from this event and...
Yeah, we went past this building it's quite near Farringdon Station for anyone who's based in London, which is not too far from where we stay.
Yeah, it's kind of in our local neighborhood.
We won't go any more specific than that for fear of crazy people trying to locate us, or crazy people / our loving fan base. We'd gone past this building on our way to the James Bond cabaret show, and we saw them like setting up for stuff, and we like noted it, but we didn't really think too much of it because this building has previously, I think, like hosted weddings and stuff. So I think our assumption was just that there was like a wedding happening there.
Yeah, it looked like they were loading like thousands of bottles of something in there, and I was kind of like, that's a lot of one thing for a wedding.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and then I think because I hadn't been looking at my phone really the whole time we were at the cabaret show, I was like looking through it and I was seeing that the Dune premiere was happening in London, or had been happening in London. And then I think the big news thing from that was that Anya Taylor-Joy was there, because no one knew she was meant to be in Dune 2, and then because she was there and it was like, oh, I'm in Dune 2 by the way, everyone was like excited. So I'd seen like an article saying like Anya Taylor-Joy reveals, or surprise at the Dune premiere in London, Anya Taylor-Joy reveals that she's gonna be in the movie. And then we're going past this building on the bus, and I think I must have like, because I just looked at a photo of her at the premiere, and I like looked out the window and I was like, I think that's Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah. And I looked out the window and I saw a very blonde woman in a very, very white dress kind of coming out the side of a building and getting into a car with people around her taking pictures. And I thought, oh, it's a white dress. It's a wedding. But then Ewan kind of said, hang on. And then my mind like slowly put together, wait a minute, was that Anya Taylor-Joy that I just saw?
Yeah, it was like the end of The Usual Suspects when the detective like works out what's been happening the whole movie, and he like drops his coffee cup and everything's happening in slow motion. Yeah. That's kind of like what was happening in Sarah's brain.
Yeah. So then we yelled at the bus driver, stop!
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We just got off at the next bus
We just jumped off the bus while it was moving. We're like, we've got to see what's happening here. I think I had also spied in the split seconds as we're going past that people were holding things. Like it looked like there's paparazzi, but also just members of the public, and it kind of looked as if people were holding like a Dune poster because it looked kind of like orange and sandy. So we hopped off the bus, then went back and sort of just moseyed around the outside of the building to see what was going on, and quite quickly it was confirmed to us that this was clearly like something to do with Dune.
Yeah. So. And then sort of as soon as we got there, some paparazzi people started running around the building, and we didn't run. Yeah. We kind of fast walked because we were like, what's going on? I was sure that it was Zendaya and Tom Holland, who were confirmed to be at this. So it was the Dune after party, and they were confirmed they were at the party, but unfortunately we didn't see them. And the person that people were running for was
Austin Butler.
Austin Butler, yes. Yeah. So we just missed seeing him, but whatever, because then we did get to witness one of my favorite actors and my woman crush, Florence Pugh.
Yeah, exiting the after party. So we have a funny photo of Sarah sort of doing a selfie with Florence Pugh's like blurry face in the background.
Yeah,
so.
Maybe we'll post it on the Instagram.
And one day we're going to have Florence Pugh on the podcast, and Sarah's going to be like, we've actually met before, and show her that photo. Yeah. And then she'll probably get up and leave.
She will, because she did not look very happy. I mean, it was a pretty small crowd that I don't think many people knew about this after party. So there were probably only about 20 or so people, including us. And then the sort of security guard kind of confirmed to us that Flo was coming out.
As we know
Or
her.
He said that someone special was coming out if everyone would stay calm. Otherwise, they were, I don't know, going to sneak her out some other way. But then when she came out, it was kind of, I was hoping, that she would, I mean, best case scenario, like take a picture with us or something, or like interact with the crowd. But she just did not seem she was not in the mood, which is understandable. And she just kind of like looked very, very unhappy and just slowly walked to the car and got in.
I wouldn't say slowly walked, quickly walked. Don't you think?
I guess we have the video so we could see. Well, because she's wearing such a long dress. She walked as quickly as she could given her constraints. But yeah, she didn't really interact with the crowd at all. And to be fair, like it was probably about half paparazzi. So there were only about like 10 people who were there just, as fans.
I think one of my big regret from this incident was that because we were already dressed up to go to the James Bond cabaret thing.
We looked good.
Yeah, we were like...
We did not look like regular old Dune fans.
Yeah, paparazzi are super nerd Dune fans. We looked, we were hot stuff walking around.
Yeah.
Well, you were. I was okay.
No, you were too. You were in your full suit and everything.
I think we could have just like walked up and just people. I don't know if people would have like really like Wedding Crashers style, just like the confidence of acting like you're meant to be there, and people aren't going to question it.
Because there were lots of people from the like non-famous people from the premiere party just kind of hanging out outside who were all dressed up. Like we could have blended in with them.
Yeah. I could have done my Australian accent and said I was Liam Hemsworth, and people would have probably bought it.
Yeah, and I was called I was called Kristen Stewart by the coat man at the event we were at, so I could have been Kristen Stewart.
Maybe we are them.
Yeah,
and this is all method acting for an upcoming role.
Yeah, we're not saying who we really are to see if we're famous because we're talented.
Ghostwriter style.
Yeah, like J.K. Rowling and...
Stephen King.
Stephen King did that?
Yeah.
Who was his... what is that pen name? What was his pen name?
Is it a pen name? I thought that's for like... Oh no, I'm thinking of pen pal when you like write people. No, it is a pen name. I can't remember what his was. I can't remember what books he's like had originally released under that name, but he definitely did that.
Yeah, well, J.K. Rowling was Robert Galbraith.
Still is.
Yeah, no, but but she released it under that name, I think, to like prove to herself that she was actually talented. But then it happened to leak out, I'm doing air quotes, that it was J.K. Rowling, and then those books got popular. So I don't know. That's a little sus.
So moving on to what we thought of Dune Part 2 non-spoilers. So this is not the spoiler warning. Sarah, what are your high-level thoughts on Dune Part 2?
Well, I thought that cinematically it was, as kind of expected, a masterpiece, Like I thought everything looked amazing. There were some interesting artistic choices, in my opinion, especially with the Harkonnens, which I don't know if I was as much of a fan of, but we can talk more specifically about that in a second. But overall, I thought that the cinematography was very good.
Yeah, I think, it's like a technical marvel. I mean, the previous Dune won like every technical Oscar at the Oscars it was at. So I imagine this would be expected to do a similar thing.
But now, I was not such a fan of all of the sound design and music. Hans Zimmer has some amazing scores, but to call the stuff in Dune, the majority of the stuff in Dune, like music, I think would be a vast exaggeration. It's all just...
Yeah, well, that's what you sort of became known for, I think, especially around the time of like The Dark Knight. So, and then that became a real like trend, especially in like trailers. There'd always be this like really...
But it's just the same noise, like, and it happens probably like 50 plus times in this movie.
Yeah.
And it hurt my ears.
Yeah, well, the theater we were in was really loud, so at times it did get like quite, like it was almost like when you go to like a music, like a gig or something, and you're meant to wear like earplugs. It's really cool, when the sound is so bassy that it actually vibrates your seat. Like, I thought that was really cool, but I think that it just happened too much. I think that they should have reserved it for like the biggest moments, because for me personally,
I just felt like overwhelmed by all of the sound that my body had to take in.
I would say I think this type of scoring is different from... Now, I'm not like an expert on this sort of subject, but, you know, you have like your John Williams type scores, which are like very melodic and there's a lot of orchestra and stuff, whereas this was a bit more like somber, and so you have the like loud sort of synthy, like bassy stuff like you're describing. Then there's the kind of more, I guess, like choral stuff where it's singing as like the where there's like the famous like sort of shrieking thing that's always played in the trailers.
But it's the same thing over and over. They don't do any like...
Well, sometimes I think there's like a 10-second like clip of it, and sometimes they just play like the first 2 seconds, and sometimes they play the whole thing. So
that is lazy. No, but I don't know. I wouldn't like Pirates of the Caribbean. Hans Zimmer did that, right?
Yeah. But that's just one song that you're referring to.
No.
Yeah.
There are variations of that theme. That's the word I was looking for. Variations of like the choral singing stuff you can have.
But Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't have any of that. Like I think it's like a different way of scoring.
Yeah. They have choral stuff.
I don't think it's as like notable for that. Really?
Yeah. What about when all the pirates are getting hung?
What's that?
What?
Like just when people yeah, okay. Well, they're singing in it, yeah.
That's choral.
Yeah, but that's not
a very different kind of singing.
That's not what I mean. I think that is a bit more like in your face and like melodic, like listen to it and recognize it. Whereas the Dune, I don't know, I feel like most scores I've been hearing lately, it's like another like Villeneuve film is like Blade Runner 2049 also has the kind of more like low-key and somber score.
But can you think of any music that's happening other than the singing?
Yeah. No, not really.
Just the big bassy kind of thing over and over?
Well, I'm not really like even necessarily singling that out because a lot of like Christopher Nolan themes are like that as well. Or scores, sorry, where it's like the bass heavy stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope that he doesn't win best. What do you get? Best score? Best
original score, I think, is the award. I mean,
this is my personal opinion, so I'm sorry if I'm offending people out there, but...
I wonder, actually, because I feel like a lot of at least that sort of shrieking thing is from the first one, so I'm not sure, because that's in the previous one, can it get, like, resubmitted? Because
they'll say it's...
Can John Williams get... every Star Wars movie that comes out, can he be nominated for an Oscar for that? Even if it's like mostly his work, like the same stuff used over and over again. That's maybe a little unfair to John Williams because obviously, like for the prequels, he did new stuff and it was really good. But
yeah, well, and each film I'd assume has different variations of the theme.
Just change the key, new score. That's how music works.
in Harry Potter, you know, Hedwig's theme will probably show up in every Harry Potter, but it'll be the like original one is in Philosopher's Stone, and then it'll be sometimes part of other songs in other films, or it'll just be like a slightly different, like the same melody but different arrangement.
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay. But anyway, we've been talking about music for a while. What other high-level thoughts have you got?
Well, I haven't said any of my high-level thoughts apart from the music yet. So I thought it was...
You said it looked good?
Yeah, it looked good. That was it. No, I thought it was really good. I will say, I guess, cinematographically, really incredibly impressive. I mean, we saw it on an IMAX, and I think this and the first two are the only two movies I've ever seen on an IMAX, but I think if an IMAX is ever worth like going to see a movie in IMAX, it would be something like this where there is like a real sense of like scale, and because I know there's definitely like visual effects in this, but they definitely use like a lot of like shooting on location with like unpractical effects, and they maybe are enhancing that with visuals. So I think when that's blown up on like a really big screen, it doesn't really lose any real quality, and because of that, just everything just like looks like a real sort of like marvel to behold. This movie had a budget of just under $200 million, which is of course like a lot, but when you look at other budgets for movies, like I'm gonna be honest, like most like recent like Marvel project, they don't look anywhere near as like high quality as this. And I know there's like many factors for that, is actors' salaries, but I think one of the problems, from what I'm told or have read, is that when there's a sort of understanding on set that you can just fix things with CGI. There's like less of a importance placed in like getting it right, like doing all you can practically at the time, and then your budget balloons because you end up spending like way like too much on visual effects. And I think visual effects are probably best used to like enhance, you know, real things where you can, as opposed to just like
just doing
stuff.
everything in front of a green screen.
Yeah. Like how in Oppenheimer they actually detonated that atomic bomb.
It all comes back to they actually did. What did they just do? A really small bomb?
A miniature bomb? No.
Well, they did. Well, obviously it wasn't an atomic bomb.
No. Sorry. I thought you meant like how for like Godzilla movie
they do like scaled.
Yeah, they have like a little like tiny little city, and it's like the idea they like make a tiny little bomb and then like just drop it.
I did actually notice once in Dune Part 2 that I thought that it looked like that they did a scaled. It was like with one of the Omnithopter? Is that what it's called?
Nice.
Yeah, that was good. I don't know. I just noticed that. I was like, that looks like a like miniature little thing. There.
One of the things I was thinking prior to this, because we watched the first Dune as sort of a refresher last night.
Yes, which I would highly suggest doing because...
Yeah, you're in a world of pain if you haven't seen it going into this. You're going to be... Right. Well, I mean...
We have also read...
The book. I've read the first two books.
Yeah,
so Dune,
which helps to have that encyclopedia of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an expert really on Dune. Everyone knows me as a Dune expert because I've read the two books a couple of years ago. I don't get any of the names wrong. I totally understand all of the like global geopolitical things that happen in the universe at any time. One of the things I was thinking, just because, you know, this is kind of becoming up like a premier sci-fi franchise in the 2020s, although like the source materials from the 1950s. I don't think the first Dune, and compared to sort of other sci-fi franchises, has like quite the same sort of like iconic designs and things. Like if you think of Star Wars, they have, even from like the very start, you have like Darth Vader, which is like a really iconic looking design. You have the stormtroopers, you have lightsabers, and then like the droids. I think all of those designs are like totally amazing. And I don't think in the first one you really have that to the same extent really at all. The one thing I think is the Omnithopter is really, really fucking cool because it's like a kind of weird mechanical bug thing.
I feel like they kind of tried to do that with the Harkonnens because they have a very distinct, bald, gross, weird look to them.
With the Harkonnens, the way they've characterized them in this, they've done like almost everything they can to really dehumanize them, where like they talk kind of strangely and they're all like bald and they seem to be like ultra violent, and it's not really clear. Everyone has their like head shaved and stuff. It's like kind of like bizarre. I mean, it's cool, but it's like...
Yeah, I think it looks cool, and some of the shots of, you know, when they're like, what is that called? The big stadium.
Colosseum.
Yeah, what's the fight called? You know, like a gladiator kind of fight. Like it looks quite impressive and cool and stuff. But when I read it, I just pictured them as like people, you know, which I think makes them more compelling villains. Whereas in this, they're just kind of like evil. Yeah, it is interesting. Like Dune, as much as it's just like big sci-fi, there's not really aliens or like intelligent aliens. I mean, you have like the big sandworms, which obviously we don't have on Earth. But you sure?
Yeah, well, as far as we're aware. But they kind of like the Harkonnens almost like have that kind of role because they're so different from the other humans that you meet. Yeah. What I was going to say is I think in this one, the Sardaukar that you see look like pretty cool, and obviously the Fremen look cool as well, and because you have more of the worms as well in this one. Like I think there's a bit more of that kind of like iconic, like eye-catching sort of sci-fi imagery, which I liked as well. I don't know if that's something they consciously did. They were like, we don't have enough memorable things from the first movie. But
it's interesting that everyone seems to be able to fly.
Or they have like the jetpacks things.
Yeah, well, you don't see jetpacks, but I assume something in there. Like the Baron's
boots. Yeah.
Well, the Baron has those suspenders, which I never pictured as actually allowing people to fly. In the book, it's very fat phobic. It's just the Baron's character is, I don't know, he's just supposed to be disgusting because he's, you know, fat.
I don't think that's why he's disgusting.
These suspenders to like hold it up, and well, I think that's kind of what they like imply. Like I feel like that. I think it's supposed to make him give you the ick, and then in this one they sort of just they make every Harkonnen just a big ick.
I guess to sum up, I say on like a high level, like I really liked it. We did watch as we just said, the first one yesterday, and I think I'd probably like this one a bit more. Although I did really like the first one at the time, and I still think it's really good. It's not quite as amazing as I thought. I suppose like the one thing we both were commenting on was at times in the first one, Timothée Chalamet's acting is maybe a little bit not like bad. It's just like his delivery at times is a little strange, and I didn't really notice that in this one. So maybe he's improved.
I think it's less noticeable when he's not speaking English. I think when he's trying to command people in English, it kind of isn't always believable. But then when he switches languages, I'm like, yeah. But I would actually disagree. I think that I liked the first Dune more, but I think my main thing is that it felt like a large portion of the sort of middle of the second half felt like a war movie, or maybe just the middle, which, not that we always have to be comparing the book and the movie, but there you don't actually get much fighting in the book. And then in the movie, it was just, there were a lot of scenes of them like blowing up ships and shooting people and fighting people. And it was just a lot of action scene on action scene, which is not something that I enjoy. So
I was actually kind of surprised that there was like less action than I was anticipating. At one point, I was concerned they were going to do a Hobbit and split it into 3 movies, and then have what should be like the third act of the story just be the entire third movie, where it's just going to be like fighting and fighting and fighting.
There's no fighting in the book. Like, there's hardly any fighting.
Yeah, there's not as much fighting in the book, but I guess that's just a symptom of being a book to movie adaptation. Lord of the Rings also kind of famously, compared to the film adaptations, which are, beloved, the book doesn't really have any of the fighting and just like skips it.
Yeah, and some authors are better than others at writing action sequences. For example, I think Michael Crichton is another one who wrote the Jurassic Park books, and he's kind of known for being very bad at writing action scenes. But obviously in the Jurassic Park movies, there's quite a few action scenes. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think action scenes in books can sometimes, like, because they don't really advance the plot all the time, you find yourself just like glazing over them because it's not really like that captivating.
Yeah, I guess depending on the author. I'm trying to think of someone who writes good action scenes, but
I can tell you who doesn't. Homer. In the Iliad, which is very boring. Sorry to any ancient Greeks out there who love it.
I don't think there are any ancient Greeks out there. Okay, so more non-spoilers. Do we want to talk a bit about the casting of it?
Yeah, so I suppose there's a lot of returning people from Dune 1.
Uno.
Timothée Chalamet. Zendaya's back, and actually in the movie this time.
Rather than just looking good.
Yes, I mean, that would be like no surprise to anyone who had read the book that Zendaya wasn't, or Chani, the character, was not going to be in it in the first one that much, because she only starts appearing to Paul. Well, she comes into Paul in some like visions or dreams. I don't know, what however you want to define them. But yeah, she plays like a main role in this one, and obviously with some of the deaths that happen in the first one, those characters aren't back, but I don't think we necessarily need to spoil what those are. Right.
Yeah, and we have what's the one who plays Jessica?
Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah. She has, obviously we don't want to, we're still in non-spoilers, but in the first movie, she does a whole lot of crying. A lot less crying in this one. Her character arc turns her into a very different character in this movie than the first one.
Yeah, we can maybe discuss that in spoilers, because I almost feel like, compared to the book, I get a more sort of definitive picture of where she is at as a character from the movie than I did from the book.
Yeah.
So I found that like interesting. Javier Bardem is back as Stilgar, but again has like a bigger role because the Fremen are in it for a much bigger part. And actually, at least in our screening, a lot of the comedic stuff in the movie was like entirely coming from his character, but it was all kind of interestingly, I guess, his devoutness to his religion within that movie, or within the Dune universe as a Fremen, and it's I guess the jokes are kind of coming at his expense. I don't know. It was like strange in that because he's so overboard in like how like committed he is to his sort of religious ideals and beliefs,
Right.
people were like laughing at it. And I think it is played up as a joke, but
Yeah. Who else? Florence Pugh, our friend Florence Pugh.
probably has like a slightly larger role than I was expecting, just because she's in the book, right? But her character doesn't really contribute to the plot so much in the book, whereas she has a couple more scenes and stuff
Right.
here.
Not until the very end. I thought it worked though, because in the book, the chapters are kind of interspersed with these things that Florence Pugh's character, Princess Irulan, is that her name?
Irulan or Irulan.
Has written sort of in a like from the future. She has written it as almost a history of what has happened with Paul and all of that. So each chapter kind of starts with a little excerpt that Princess Irulan has written.
They're not. I don't think they're always from her, but
Some
a lot of them are.
Yeah. So then in the movie, it's not a spoiler, but they have her sort of dictating these historical passages, which I thought that was a good way to kind of give her more.
Yeah, no, that was I think a nice touch and like nod to the book as well, because obviously like that isn't something they're literally translating from the plot of the book, but it's implied from the book, because you read these passages because they break up the chapters, which is interesting. I mean, the Dune book is actually interesting because of those little excerpts you get. It's kind of spoiling the book the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not something you really see in many other works of fiction.
Yeah, it's that dramatic irony where we know stuff that the characters don't.
Yeah. To be clear, that isn't what she's doing in the movie. She's not like writing about things that haven't happened in the movie before they happen, which would be quite confusing.
Yes, she's talking about things as they happen in the movie.
Yeah.
But do you have anything more to say about the actors?
I suppose the notable additional one is Austin Butler as Fade Rotha. Sarah's looking at me as if she has some trivia for us.
Yes, well, this is just a perfect transition into some non-spoiler trivia. So Austin Butler was cast as Fade.
Fade Rotha, I think his name.
I'm just going to call him Fade.
Okay.
But Bill Skarsgård, son of what's his name? Stellan Skarsgård, who plays the Baron, was considered for the part, which would make sense since they're related.
And because he plays creepy roles, basically exclusively.
Yeah, I think it would fit him well.
The other Skarsgård seems to have a bit more, I don't want to say acting range, but at least he does more like varied roles, whereas
Bill plays it, right? Or Pennywise.
Pennywise, yeah.
And then, or were you going to say more about the Skarsgårds? Okay.
I'm just not surprised that he would have been considered for that, especially because his dad is the head Harkonnen.
Yeah. And then another person considered was Barry Keoghan, who also known for kind of weird, creepy roles.
Yeah. I'm not sure he has quite the same like physicality that I think is crucial to the role.
And then I think they were seriously considered, but according to New York Times columnist Kyle Buchanan, other frontrunners for the role included Harry Styles.
Oh my god.
Which probably would have been bad. Yeah. Sorry, Harry. Love ya.
Maybe that's why he shaved his head.
Yeah. And then he didn't get the role. That would be very sad. He basically had to put on something like 25 pounds, which I didn't think he looked that buff in the movie, but apparently he had to go through a whole big fitness routine and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot of like physical fighting and stuff, so maybe just to do those...
That's true.
Those skill moves, those little martial art things that he has to like buff up a bit as well. It's the same for like all the Marvel movies, like a lot of the superheroes. I mean, you have like your Thors and Captain Americas who are like really buff, but then even some of like the ones that you don't think about, they're always like Paul Rudd in Ant-Man went through like a major like fitness thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of sad because I didn't notice.
Yeah. I think he like takes his top off like once and then everyone's like, oh wow, he has abs now. But then you go the other way where like in The Boys, Homelander just wears like a muscle suit because he always has like his suit on, and apparently. This is a bit of boys trivia for you. Amazon Prime's
The Boys
series. When Soldier Boy joined the cast in season 3, I can't remember the actor who plays him. They told him, oh yeah, you really need to get like in shape for this. And then he was talking to the Anthony Starr, the guy who plays Homelander, and said like, oh yeah, I've just been going through this like crazy fitness routine. And apparently he was just like to him, dude, just get a muscle suit. I don't do any working out. And then he was really sad.
Oh, that does seem... I mean, if it's a healthy amount of working out, yes. But a muscle suit does seem... If you have to, like, you know, how some actors go crazy and, like, try to lose all their water weight and, like...
Yeah, Christian Bale transformations.
Yeah. That just sounds very unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, I also think, despite what some Hollywood actors might tell you, they're... definitely using some additional enhancers to get those bodies.
I would say that might also be unhealthy.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah.
Okay, last bit of, what's the actor's name? Austin Butler.
Austin Butler.
Of Austin Butler stuff is just that because he normally does a more, what's it called when you like, for Elvis, where he kind of, method acting, yes. Yeah. So he said that for this role, he decided that method acting would affect his personal life too much. And basically, he just couldn't be a psycho all the time. Yeah. So he didn't really do method acting for this one.
It's weird, Austin Butler, like the way he comes across when you see him in interviews and stuff, he sort of comes across as if he's like this like storied and really serious actor. And I'm not saying he isn't, like clearly he is, but I've only seen him in Elvis and like nothing else.
Well, now you've seen him in Dune too?
Yeah, but I mean, and he is good. I mean, he was Oscar nominated for Elvis.
Did you say he came from Disney Channel or something?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
Maybe that's why you don't take him seriously.
I don't know. Well, I think the whole thing with like the voice, the Elvis voice.
I don't know. What is that?
Well, basically, he had like a dialect coach to make him sort of sound like Elvis. And when he does sing, I think actually that's probably why he was cast in the role to some extent, was because the role of Elvis, not as Federather, is because when he sings, he actually does sound like Elvis quite a lot. You know, I don't actually think he looks like him like that much. Mm-hmm. Not that that's all there is to acting. He sounds like him a lot, and then after that, he just started talking in like the Elvis voice like all the time, like in interviews and stuff. And then he says he's had to like work with his dialect coach to like lose the Elvis voice. And I'm like, this all seems like a bit too much. It's just a bit like cringy, where he's kind of like, oh, the spirit of Elvis is like living in me and I have to sound like him forever now. Even if you have a dialect coach and they coach you how to sound like someone else, surely as an actor, you don't then like lose how to speak normally or with your normal voice.
Except that he said he's a method actor, so then he probably was talking in an accent for however long they were filming. Which, I mean, I kind of get that might, but it is definitely a bit cringe. Was he the one who was talking about how he really missed?
Oh no, that was Bradley Cooper.
Oh, that was for
So
Maestro?
For Maestro, there was an interview where Bradley Cooper was with Leonard Bernstein's family, because Leonard Bernstein's now dead.
Who is the person he plays in
Maestro,
the movie?
the composer. I don't want to be dismissive to him. Not that being a conductor is something to be dismissed, but
oh no, you're really digging yourself into a hole.
No. And he's giving this interview, and I don't know what the questions like pitched to him, but he basically says he misses Leonard Bernstein, and then he starts kind of like crying. Which
with the family, with the man's family, who he has never met.
And, exactly. He never met Leonard Bernstein, and then he starts going on about how he like, I don't know, he just like has so much respect for him and stuff. But it's all this kind of like actor hippiness where it's like they take a role really seriously, and it's like this deceased man who I've never met. Now I feel intimately connected to them, and he was with me every day on the set and stuff. It's just take your movie seriously, but it's not that seriously. You don't need to fake, or even if it's not fake, make yourself believe in some sort of spirituality nonsense. Make you seem like a complete idiot. Sorry, Bradley. Also, one last thing on Austin Butler is just that when the cast photos of him as Federather first came out, there's a really funny TikTok I saw from a comedian. I think his name's like Ben Synthman on TikTok, where he was doing like the Elvis voice and going like, "The Baron took my hair, mama. Took it right off my head."
Oh dear.
But anyway, I found it very funny, and I quote it quite a lot, much to Sarah's dismay. Not dismissive. Well, you're sometimes dismissive, I suppose. I'm thankful for this movie just because it gave me that.
I got
a good chuckle out of it. Also, on Austin Butler, he definitely clearly must have worked with a dialect coach again, because he really sounds a lot like Baron Harkonnen or Stellan Skarsgård, because he has that kind of like raspy voice, which I know Batista doesn't have it because he plays Beast Rab in the other prominent Harkonnen. He just sounds like Batista, so like Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. But I don't know, I thought that was like an interesting thing.
Yeah, and it sounded like maybe they had done some vocal editing as well to his voice to make him sound more scary.
Yeah.
But I think it is also, some of the credit does go to him for, I think he sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you have any more Austin Butler?
Not necessarily. I was going to say, just while we're on it, about the Harkonnens, like we were talking about is it Gedi Prime, the Harkonnen planet, how it's like all in black and white, or it appears to be in black and white. What did you think was the reason for that? Because I don't understand how it can't be that the like everyone on the planet is black and white, because when they go to Arrakis, those characters are not in black and white. They're just pale boys.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, because it was really just black and white. But I feel like maybe it's supposed to be, because already the Harkonnen are very pasty boys, basically like very...
Pasty baldy boys.
Yeah, pasty baldy boys.
Like a Scottish
and they
father.
always wear black. And they always wear all black. And they're bald, so none of them have any hair color. And so then I think the planet also, they just wanted it to have the vibe. Like, it's just a very washed out planet. I don't think everything is literally in black and white, but because of the lighting of the planet and because everything is almost everything is just gray, white, or black, that everything appears that way. But it was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Did you notice when people bled, was it red?
I don't know.
Because there was certainly blood.
Yeah.
I don't really remember. I feel like it must have been red.
Maybe they'd bleed black or white.
Oh, yeah, because what's all the, like... The Harkonnen, or at least Fade, has, like, his mouth is full of black goo, like tar. Did you notice that?
Yeah, maybe that was blood. I don't know.
That was disgusting. And he, like, feeds... That's not a spoiler. He, like, feeds bodies to his, like, female, I don't know, sex ladies?
Yeah, he's very menacing. I saw, going into it, some people were comparing it was like, this is the best villain performance since Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight or Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. I don't think it was like quite on that sort of level, but it was like very, very good.
His character style reminded me a lot of the villain from Thor, Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah, Gore the God Butcher.
Yeah.
Well, he was also a bald, pasty boy, so...
Yeah, and creepy as hell.
Yeah. Maybe he's a Harkonnen. Maybe they're going to do a crossover.
That would be good. It is a space exploration. They're both space exploration themed things.
I feel like having Thor's goofy idiot persona in Dune would be a bit of a tonal shift.
That'd be funny. Okay, so we've gone over our Fade trivia, our Austin Butler trivia, but now I have a little trivia about Head Harkonnen, Stellan Skarsgård / the Baron. So obviously he is in a lot of makeup. And is it still called makeup? Is there a special word, like special effects makeup? So apparently his body makeup would take 8 hours to apply and 2 hours to remove. 8 hours, like that is a full working day just to put on that makeup. I would not do that job. Well, maybe if they're paying me like millions of dollars. But to sit there for 8 hours and then start working, like just sitting there while they put it on you, that'd be awful.
I saw an interview with him on like the red carpet with Amelia de Moldenberg. I don't know if you know who that is.
No.
She's like a British, I guess, interviewer. She does that like Chicken Shop Date series.
Okay,
and then she like her like interview style, like she's like awkward and like kooky, I guess. She was doing like an interview with him on the red carpet, and she like asked him what his like favorite day on set was like, and he was like quite like prickly about it. So now I'm wondering.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, now I'm wondering if it was because he didn't have any favorite days on set because he was barely on set, as it took 8 hours off prep every time he was on set. So
yeah, right. And then she says, "You can say no," and then he just says, "No, I didn't have a favorite day." Yeah. And then to add to that, he didn't drink anything and took Imodium pills to avoid having to go to the bathroom during shooting days.
Jeez, yeah.
That sounds awful. That's like torture.
Yeah.
They better have paid him a lot of money to do that.
It is. I always hear these like stories about people how long they have to like sit doing like hair and makeup for specific things. I'm just like, that's crazy. Like obviously there is clearly like a lot of hair and makeup or work that would have to go into transforming him to the Baron, but it doesn't seem like it would be as much as for some other roles that require a crazy amount of prep. So yeah, the fact that takes 8 hours.
And that he doesn't use the bathroom the whole day, like that is not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take Imodium, like that can last longer than you want it to.
Mm-hmm. The best example I can think of that is, or the one I can think of off the top of my head, is that Jennifer Lawrence in the rebooted X-Men movies where they were playing like the young X-Men. She plays a character called Mystique who is like a shapeshifter, but her like true form is kind of like this person who's like dark blue and has these kind of like etchings around her body and stuff.
Okay.
And as time went on during that series, as she was getting like more and more famous, I think she basically was just like, I'm not doing the fucking makeup to do that anymore. Because it takes like 10 hours and it's full body.
10 hours?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just exactly to make her blue?
Yeah, well, exactly. So they basically just had her do a shapeshift into Jennifer Lawrence. So they didn't have to have her do like makeup anymore.
Why not just pull an avatar?
I'll make it like CGI. Yeah, I don't know. I think that solution is probably the best one.
Yeah. Okay, and then one last non-spoiler trivia. So in the 1984 Dune movie, which I think Ewan has seen. No. David
Lynch Dune with Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes. So apparently Sting appeared in that Dune. Did you know that? And they asked him to do a cameo in this film, and he turned it down.
Really? That's kind of surprising.
But he did attend.
He loves a cameo.
The New York premiere. I know.
Only Murders in the Building. Yeah. A cameo in that. Your dad thought he was the murderer at one point?
Well, for most of the show, he thought he was. Even in the last episode, he said, I still think it's Sting. Well, maybe it was, for people who haven't watched Only Murders.
Yeah.
But, okay, that is all for the trivia for now. But those were some good facts, I think.
Okay, so are we now moving on to our non-spoiler warning? Before we do the non-spoiler warning, is there anything that is non-spoilers that we want to close with? I think we both enjoyed it, right? And we'd recommend you see it. Probably.
I would recommend seeing it in theaters.
Yeah, don't watch it on a phone. Whatever screen you want to watch it on, I recommend watching it on a bigger one. So if that's like, you have a TV that's like 20 inches, get a bigger TV or go to the cinema. That's probably cheaper.
Yeah.
Although with cinema prices nowadays in London, maybe not.
True. Just have a student ID that lasts forever and use that forever, like we might do. Okay, spoiler time. Spoilers. Goodbye, non-spoiler people.
We'll come back once you've seen the movie.
Yeah. So, what do we want to start with for spoilers?
Well, I guess we could talk about how there's clear differences between the book and the movie. I think the first one, Dune Part 1, was actually like quite faithful to the book. Now, I'm not a Dune, Dune head, so I don't...
Is that what they're called?
No, I don't know. They're probably called sandworms. I'm not a wormy. So I don't exactly know if that's true. I can remember there being one of my favorite scenes from the book, which they cut from the first movie, which was like this like dinner scene where there's like quite a lot of like political like back and forth.
Yeah, because that's the scene before the attack.
Yeah. We're in spoilers now, so we can...
That's true.
We can say that with confidence.
Before the Harkonnens come and kill Dookie Boy.
Yeah, the Harkonnen Sardaukar assault.
Yes.
So they cut that, which I was a little disappointed with in the first one, but particularly with the ending of this one, it's like actually different from the book, like, and they're setting up for a sequel which would be based on Dune Messiah, the second book, which is gonna have to be somewhat different from that because of where they leave it here.
Right. So how is the ending different?
The ending of the book, from what I remember, is that Paul takes Princess Arulin to be like his wife as he takes over Arrakeen, which is the capital of Arrakis, defeats the Harkonnens, kills Feyd-Rautha in a battle.
Yes.
And then he's like, all right, I have the spice production, which is like so important to the universe, in the palm of my hand. Not the power
Yes.
of the sun in the palm of his hand, the power of
power
spice production. in
Of
palm
the
his
what's
hand.
it? What's the spice called in the book?
Melange, I think.
Power of melange
Melange.
in the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
So he threatens,
Yeah.
which he does in the movie. He threatens to destroy the spice with the nukes.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, the other houses are like, oh, he's going to destroy the spice. All right, we'll back off and just let whatever happens here happen.
And we let you be empire or emperor. We'll recognize you, I think.
Yeah, they're basically like, if the emperor kills him, that's fine. If he kills the emperor, that's fine. Or if he overtakes the emperor, then that's fine.
Yeah. I think actually, just while you say that, in the book, I don't actually think the atomics thing is what he uses to to threaten them. I'm not even sure if that's in the book. It might be, but I don't really remember that.
Well, he threatens to destroy the spice.
Yeah, or at least damage it. And he's already been doing that with the Fremen throughout the movie. That's like why the Emperor comes in the first place. So that's different.
Right.
Then the other main difference is that like Chani in this is clearly upset with Paul and has been against him embracing the Messiah or Lisan al-Gaib / Muad'Dib / Savior / Kwisatz Haderach.
Don't they also call it like the Mahdi?
The Mahdi, yeah. So he's also been hesitant to it, but he eventually sort of just succumbs to doing it because he sees it's like the only way to get revenge, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't really... it feels kind of like That's So Raven, where he's like, oh, I must stop this massacre from happening, but then everything he does actually leads to the massacre happening. Yeah. Just like That's So Raven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, fate is one of the sort of themes of the book.
Right.
Because Paul is kind of aware of kind of what's going to happen and is trying to sometimes do it and sometimes not do it. And then seemingly whatever he does kind of puts him closer to where he's going to end up.
Right.
So it's...
in a That's So Raven fashion. So in the book, Chani stays with Paul even though he becomes the wife. Even though he takes on the princess as his wife, she agrees to basically be his concubine. And I think that she has a conversation with Jessica, who was the Duke of Atreides' concubine. She wasn't his wife. Jason Isaac, right?
No, Oscar Isaac. Jason Isaac is
Who's
Lucius
Jason
Malfoy.
Isaac? Oh,
it's Jason Isaacs, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Jessica was not actually Oscar Isaac's wife. She was his concubine. And so Jessica and Chani have a conversation, and there's some like famous line where she says something like, we are the wives or something like that will be written about in history, even though they're the concubines.
Yeah, to be honest, I remember reading that and thinking it was actually quite almost like laughable because it was meant to be like sort of female empowerment-y, but written obviously by like Frank Herbert.
Yeah.
So I was like, this just comes across really silly. It's not the wives of powerful men who will be remembered in history. It's their mistresses, as if that's better.
Yeah, no,
it's just like,
it is pretty weird. And I think, so they changed Chani's character a lot in the movie. And this is, Ewan remembers the book more than I do. I looked up all this stuff so I could refresh my brain about it. But in the film, Chani is a lot more, like you said, against him being the Lisan al-Gaib from the start. She's always like standing up to him about it. And I think that's because the director wanted to hit home the idea that some people, when they read the book, missed, that Paul is not the hero of the story. Paul is basically the villain.
Or anti-hero version on villain.
Of the story. And so Chani is like the voice of reason, she's basically right in what she's saying, which I think I kind of like that change. And then basically because she is this new character in the book, like this character in the film, it wouldn't really make sense for her to stay based on everything that's happened.
Yeah, I'm not really clear. It's not really clear to me like what they're going to do with her in the next one, like where that's going to go.
Because she's usually in the second Dune book a lot, isn't she? So
she's in it more. I mean, I think just the changes generally with her character. I don't remember her in the book even being against the prophecy at all. Like,
she's for
it. In fact, I don't even really remember there being like Fremen who are like for and against the like prophecy. But yeah, I mean, they make a point in the book that it's like the southern of the Southern Fremen on Arrakis who are like more devout to the prophecy, and
I think that's in the movie that they do that. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So in the movie, they make a point. And then in the North, there seems to be a kind of split amongst the people you're seeing. But I don't really remember that in the book at all.
I don't think that was really in the book. I think that was another change.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I mean, you could argue, like, should they have to make the story more simple or more, like, in your face to be, like, to drive the message home? But Frank Herbert himself wrote Dune Messiah to make his original point more clear. So I think in that case, if the original author understood the frustration that he didn't make his point clear enough for the general public in the first book, you can make some changes if it's actually to support the author's original intention, which I think this clearly is. Yeah,
to bring out those themes more. And to be clear, the point is basically that it is supposed to be an anti-white savior story, which obviously there are still, you know, some problems with it. It's still written by a white man, and he's still sort of adopting Middle Eastern Islamic cultures for kind of his own means, but it is supposed to be anti-white savior, whereas some people didn't understand that when reading it.
Yeah, I think that's to me, I feel like that's quite clear, especially in this like movie, which I think is good, especially if that's because that's Frank Herbert's intention. I mean, we'll probably see this more in Dune Part 3 or whatever they're going to call it, because this was kind of like him reaching the zenith of his legend as Mahdi Lisan al-Gaib, and things maybe aren't going to go all swimmingly from here, but he isn't the savior. It's posited that he is meant to be the savior of the Fremen, and he's going to lead them to paradise, but they repeatedly say throughout the movie that the Bene Gesserit have like seeded this idea with the Fremen, and it's like it's made up, like it doesn't come from the Fremen, it comes from like an alien race of space witches.
But because the Bene Gesserit have this idea of the Kwisatz Haderach or whatever, which is essentially, is that not sort of the same thing of being a kind of messiah savior figure? But
I don't think he fits their description of what he's going to be. Like Stilgar in the movie, he's like checking off all, like whenever he sees anything, he's like, this is just like the prophecy says. Whereas I think
because they can see the future too.
Yeah, I think because Paul's a guy, like I think automatically he doesn't fit the Kwisatz Haderach prophecy.
I thought.
Or am I wrong?
Wait. Well, I might be wrong. You might know better, but I thought that the Kwisatz Haderach is that the women are breeding women, and then but the Kwisatz Haderach will be a man.
Possibly, because they do use Fade Rotha as like he could be also our person.
Yeah, and they didn't want Jessica to have a boy because they didn't think that, you know, it was ready yet or something.
Yeah, I thought maybe they're not like generations deep enough with their selective breeding to like, be at that point where he could be
such a weird thing.
Yeah, so I think there is a reason why he's not meant to be Kwisatz Haderach, but maybe he sort of makes himself into it through his other actions. I'm not sure. I'm not too clear on that.
I think the Queen Reverend Mother lady, like at the beginning when they do the Gom Jabber test or whatever. What is it?
Gom Jabber.
When they
do almost jab him with a needle, so.
Jab him. Go and jab him. Yeah. When they do that, it's a test. I mean, that because he passes, it doesn't mean he's the Kwisatz Haderach, but that's like one of their tests to see if like he could be, and he does pass that, and so does Fade. Yeah. But I'm not 100% sure on all this lore.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's like entirely important, but in terms of like the Fremen's like prophecy and them thinking of him as the white savior, like makes it like really clear that this is not like the Fremen going like, oh, some outworldly like white dude is going to come save us. It's like they think that because they've been lied to and like tricked, which is
damn witches.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good plan because it works, but yeah.
So I guess back to the original point, I think that it worked. Chani's character being different works to better portray that theme.
They give her. I just think she has like more agency in the movie generally than she did in the book, from what I remember. Cool. Yeah, like she is. So Zendaya clearly does like a pretty good job with that, because I think she does sort of feel powerful in her own right, and she sort of stands up to Paul on his rise to power.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I mean, it's not supposed to be funny, but it's funny when everyone bows to him and they're like, oh my God, Zendaya, bow to him. And she's just like, no, this is stupid. Yeah. And then walks out. I don't know. I liked that. Can you imagine if someone tried to make me bow to you?
What if I was the savior of the world, though, and I just killed someone in combat?
Well, exactly. Okay, so more... Unless you have anything more to say on that, more book to film.
I suppose the other thing they didn't do is that in the book there's a time skip in about the middle of the book.
I feel like that's kind of a big change.
Which I kept, like, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, all right, the time skip's going to happen now. Time skip's going to happen now. In fact, when the movie first started, I was like, has this been the time skip? And now it's like taking place like 2 years later.
I was also confused about the time until you see the body bag
of Janet. So it's actually taking place like immediately after the end of the first movie, which maybe you should have assumed, like maybe you would have assumed if you didn't know there was going to be a time skip, or there was potential to be a time skip. So spoiler alert, they just don't have a time skip at all. They just get rid of that,
which inherently changes a lot of things.
Yeah. So in the book, Jessica gives birth to Alia, who is
the fetus in her stomach.
Yeah, who she talks to a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's who Anya Taylor-Joy is playing, because we talked about her story earlier in the podcast when we saw her briefly. So she's in the movie for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, but, it was a very short amount of time.
Yeah, so in the book, she's born, but because of the spice Jessica drinks at some point to become Reverend Mother, it means that she has this, what's the word, like omnipotent sort of like view of the world, and her like mind is like opened by the spice. So
and she's seen, isn't it like they see basically all of the past Reverend Mothers and like gain basically all of the information of the past and the world and the future like in one moment.
Yeah, and it causes her to develop really quickly, because she as a 2-year-old is the one who kills Baron Harkonnen. So doesn't happen in the movie.
No, Paul kills him in the movie, but in the book a 2-year-old child kills him.
Yeah.
Which
now we're saying that out loud, I'm not really that surprised they've changed.
Yeah, well, because I see how that would be difficult to do, and I feel like it could lead to a sort of Renesmee situation.
Yeah.
Where, you know, in Twilight or in Breaking Dawn Part 2, when Bella gives birth to Renesmee, and she's, you know, supposed to be this vampire child that grows and develops really quickly, and she just looks so weird and creepy, and I feel like you could get a similar thing here. And there's like, you can find a 2-year-old actor who could physically like...
There might be one out there. There might be some 2-year-olds who could do that.
Maybe. So in the book, is it the body of is she in the body of a 2-year-old?
I can't really remember, but she's definitely 2 at that point. But like her development, because I think even in Dune Messiah, she's like still technically a child, but she's like acting like an adult. So
there's also another thing that happens in a time skip, but should we not say it in case it happens in the next?
No, I think because it would be spoilers for this part in the book, so I think that's okay. Because even if it happens in the next one, it wouldn't happen in the same circumstances. The other change is that Paul...
You could, if
you're really concerned...
If you're concerned, you can skip ahead about 15 seconds.
Yeah, but Paul and Chani have a child called Duke Leto Atreides II, who then is killed at some point by a bomb during the battle at the end of the book. But none of that stuff happens in the movie.
Yeah, born and dead very quickly.
Yeah.
So I guess he probably wouldn't be in the next.
Yeah, or if he's like born, I don't know if they'll then kill him.
Who knows? Nobody knows. Okay, the other change is that there's 2 characters who are notably absent from this movie. One is Thufir Hawat, who is the Mentat. What is it?
I don't know how you say it. It's probably Mentat, but I can't remember how you exactly say it.
So he was the Atreides house's Mentat, which a Mentat, when I was reading it, I was kind of thought that maybe they were kind of robots. But now we've learned that they're the opposite of robots, whereas robots are programmed to be more like humans. Mentats are humans that are programmed to be more like computers.
Yeah, apparently in the Dune lore, there's like some previous emperor who outlaws computers being built to try and think like humans, so maybe like AI or something. And that's why it goes like the other way, where they have to then create mentats, which are, or not create mentats, but like train people to be mentats, which are humans who are trained to think and act like a computer. So they're very analytical.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
and they're kind of like slaves or like servants. Like they seem to belong to certain houses.
Yeah, they don't really have like free will. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Maesters in Game of Thrones, where they seem to just be allegiant to...
Wait, is that like the eunuch?
No. It's the other old people in Game of Thrones. They have like the chains. They're like the academics.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so Thufir in the book survives the attack on the Atreides, which you see in the first movie. And then he eventually ends up working for the Harkonnens, although it's not really... like, it's
because
not
they
really
capture him.
Yeah, and it's not really his choice. Like, he can't really say no. Like what you're saying about the kind of like slave aspect. It's not really clear how much free will he has, or maybe it is clear and I just can't remember.
Right.
I feel like he doesn't.
So, yeah, because he kind of, I think it's implied that he kind of like has to obey them, but he's also somehow secretly like scheming.
Yeah.
And then I kind of forgot about this. So the Emperor, or am I messing this up? Somebody orders Thufir to kill Muad'Dib or something like that, and he doesn't know it's Paul, and then he basically comes like face to face with Paul and has been told to like kill him, but then he's like, no, I'm not killing that boy, and then I think he might be killed.
Yeah, I think maybe like someone like does like a mercy killing on him or something.
Do you think that's a spoiler?
No, because
do you think that'll happen in the next
Well, even
one?
if it does, it won't happen in the same circumstances, because it happens at like the climax of this movie.
Okay. So sorry if that's a spoiler. But okay, we'll get to that, but there is also a second mentat missing. I guess they just decided to get rid of the mentats. Am I saying it weird? Is that why you're smiling?
No, it's fine. It's just the idea was like, we can't, people don't know how to say this, we need to get rid of them altogether.
Or maybe because I think if you haven't read the book, maybe you wouldn't really, they don't explain what a mentat is. So you might be confused, like, why is this guy's eyes rolling into the back of his head? Like, what's going on?
To be fair, he doesn't actually have that big of a part in the first movie either. Like, he already had a reduced role compared to the amount of exposure he gets in the book, I think.
And so then, in this one, the Emperor also has a mentat that's not in the movie, but is in the book. And both of these characters, Thufir and the mentat, Count
Frederick or something.
Yeah, that's
not his name, but it's something like that.
So both of them were actually cast, and both of them actually shot scenes, but then they got rid of both of them for the final cut, which is kind of sad. But apparently they're thanked in the credits or something. Yeah. You said who was cast?
I think it's something Blake Nelson. I think it's Timothy Blake Nelson. He's in Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and he's in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I quite like him, but so cut, brutally cut. It's kind of surprising because he's like a fairly prominent actor to just like completely cut from movies, but you sometimes hear of that happening.
That's probably why they thanked him. If it was a nobody, they wouldn't have felt the need to.
Yeah, true.
But I think that's all the major changes of the book to the movie. We have been talking for a very long time, but is there more that you want to talk about in this spoiler portion?
Something I was thinking of, this is not really like a spoiler, but I like looked it up to see if it was a theory, is that obviously Dune is like a sci-fi franchise. There's no like aliens in it. And Earth is apparently talked about in the universe.
That's
but
interesting.
I kind of like wonder, because obviously like, the Fremen are like indigenous to Arrakis, right? But like they must have come from somewhere. So I kind of wonder if that like is ever like gone into like where the humans like presumably if Earth is in it, like the humans come from Earth and then they go spacefaring around the world and kind of like colonize the universe or whatever. But like where do they come from, and you know how did the Fremen end up on Arrakis?
Yeah,
which is this complete like it's seemingly completely inhospitable.
I think that I read that they did, I don't know how they ended up here, but that they did come from Earth, and it's like a mix of Islamic religions, but like in the lore that is literally like where it comes from, I think.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it's just because like you see them in the movie with like all this clearly like advanced technology, like the worm thumpy things and the water extractors and stuff. I mean, it's not as, you know, sci-fi incredibleness as like the omnithopters or the like laser guns, but it's still like pretty impressive. But you never see anyone like making this stuff, so I was wondering if it's stuff that they've had for literally like thousands of years since they first arrived in Arrakis, because it's also not really clear to me like how you would get any of that stuff in on the planet, because I don't know, maybe you could like mine stuff and then I don't know, just because there's so little water, it's just hard to sort of imagine life like getting to the point where it's sustainable. Yeah,
so apparently the Fremen are direct descendants of the nomadic Zen Sunni wanderers. So they're a combination of Zen Buddhists and Sunni Islamic people, and they essentially fled into deep space and stayed on Arrakis to basically hide and avoid religious persecution.
I wonder if any of that is said in the first Dune, or if that's all been like fleshed out in subsequent stuff.
Yeah, I guess Stilgar tells him, that's in the movie, that the Fremen have been there as like longer than these people can remember and all that. Yeah, no, all that's interesting. A question that I had is, could Alia be, like, I know that the Kwisatz Haderach, I think, is supposed to be a man, but Alia kind of seems like she could be the chosen one, or, you know, because she's got the knowledge of like the whole universe in her tiny little brain.
Yeah, I can't really remember if that's actually implied in it, or if that's meant to be inferred from the text, or if that's something that comes up in Dune Messiah. But yeah, I think you could kind of read into it that way.
That's my theory. I think she's more important than silly little Paul.
One thing I was going to say just before we close is Jessica's character in this one. There was one, the pretty quick transformation where she like does the water of life thing, and then suddenly like it cuts to her again and she's got like all these like face tattoos and stuff, and you're like, when did that happen?
And she's like much more intense than in the book. Like her opinion immediately sort of switches, whereas before she was a bit hesitant to like put Paul up as the Messiah, and she was only doing it, in the book she says, like for their survival. But then in the movie, once she takes the water of life, then she all of a sudden is like, dude, you have to do it, and she like
starts
turns
using the voice like a lot.
Totally nutto.
Yeah, they do make a comment in the film where it's like Paul's gonna like lose his mum like before she does that,
right?
But I don't really remember her becoming this like, because she basically changes into a different character. Like it feels like she goes from Jessica to then after she does that, it's like she's now the Reverend Mother, and it kind of seems like her priorities / her what's like motivating her like shifts at that point,
right? Whereas
I don't really remember it being quite as like clinical as that in the book.
No, I don't think it was. And I interpreted that line, he's gonna lose his mother, because almost everyone who takes the poison dies.
Oh, that's true actually, because then they're surprised when she does it, and Paul's like, by the way guys, I knew that was gonna happen, because she's been training her to do that, so
yeah, but I think that they're saying like literally he's about to lose his
that's true, but I suppose in some ways in this it feels like he does actually lose her more than in the book, where even what she says to Chani at the end, which I was saying is like kind of, I don't know, I thought it was kind of like cringy, where she's like, it's us, the concubines, who are like, I don't think that the Jessica we like leave the movie with would say something like that. No,
I feel like she turns far less human.
Yeah,
she like loses kind of all of her humanity and turns into this alien creature.
Which woman? Burner, I say.
Oh gosh. Well, maybe they will. Okay, that was another thing that I don't know if they do this in the book or not, but how they burn all the bodies. I do not think the Fremen would do that. One, because they're wasting precious water. Two, the heat and stuff would evaporate their own water. Like it would cause them to sweat. Like they don't. One of their main things is survival in the desert is retaining water. They're very precious about their water. I don't think they would light these things on fire.
Yeah, no, it is true. Like, there definitely is a scene where they do that. Another thing that I was thinking, why do they leave the like Chani's friend behind, like because she ends up getting like tortured by Faye
I have
Rotha.
no idea.
I was like, wait a minute. We didn't like see her getting captured, so why is she there? Is she meant like I think they say it's like she's a spy or something. I'm like, well, she's not like. I mean, she's about as good of a spy as James Bond. It's like she's not going like undercover. She's obviously a Fremen. She should have to like shave her head and paint her skin like white to be undercover Harkonnen.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't really understand that at all. I feel like the only explanation could be that she was captured and that.
But they only managed to capture her and no one else.
I guess, but they say like she stayed behind or something, don't they?
Yeah,
maybe
I just didn't understand like why.
Maybe she just felt too connected to her homeland or something. It was one of those things.
Yeah,
but
well,
because
that
we
was-
don't see any of that scenes, it just didn't really make sense.
Yeah, I bet she was thinking I've made a big mistake if that's what they're.
Yeah. Well, they just kind of kill her immediately, don't they?
I think they like set her on fire or something. Like I think they kill her like pretty brutally. Yeah.
Oh my. Well.
That's why it came to me when you were talking about the fire. And stuff. Yeah.
Well, Dune was good.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. If you are listening as this episode comes out, our next episode will be an Oscars sort of recap and evaluation. We'll tell you if we thought they were properly
Done.
Yes.
Yeah, we're fully prepared for an Oppenheimer sweep, I think.
Ugh, no, we're not. Oppenheimer is good, but I'm sick of it winning things, okay? But okay, we'll save this for the episode, which is coming out on March 18th, 2024. And then you all voted on our Instagram at Popcorn and Cumin for our episode following the Oscars episode, which will be on April 2nd. Oh, the Oscars episode will be the 19th. I think I said March 18th.
Yeah.
The 19th. So April 2nd, we will be doing the listener's choice, which will be something to do with Harry Potter because of your votes. But we will have a second vote to narrow down the topic to something much more specific because at least my Harry Potter is extremely vast.
Yeah, that would be our longest ever podcast.
Yeah, so I could talk about this for like a week straight. So we're going to have a pretty specific topic that you guys will help decide. So make sure you're following our Instagram so that you can help vote on that.
Well said.
Yeah.
And just follow us in general and share it around and everything.
Yeah,
and
tell
rate the podcast 5 stars at least.
At least.
Yeah.
At least the maximum.
Well, if it's out of 5, if it's out of 10, do 10. Don't do 5. Then I'd be
That's
offended.
true. If it's out of 10, do 11.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, that was Dune.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Wormy, sandy Dune. Goodbye.